some of our flashcards that we have.
Oh.
I don't know how much she's going to do with them right now because she's not long got in from nursery. So that is for... What about the next one?
Oh, boy.
Yeah, but it's for boy. What's this one?
Curly cat.
Yeah, curly cat is for cat. What about? We'll just go through them. So it's just recognition. It's just repetitive going over them so that she recognises them. But she likes flashcards. What about that one?
It's a dog.
That is for dog. If she says anything that doesn't sound quite right, I just say it again incorrectly.
It's an egg.
Yeah. What's that one?
It's a flower.
Yeah.
Girl.
Girl is for girl.
It's a house.
Can you recount them and do it in Welsh? You recount them and do it in Welsh? Oh. Cough it up, Pap. You've done een die. What comes next? Yeah, tree.
Pedal. Pink. Scythe. Wife. Now. Dig.
Can you keep going? Een dig een.
In the die.
Good girl.
In the tree. In the pedal. In the pink. In the squirrel. Tell me more.
You got to 16 in Welsh, Babs. Well done.
This is the end of this week.
So, as you can see, we don't do everything every day. It's not a structured thing. We just I let her lead me to what she wants to do, and most days we end up doing most things. Like Thursday we had a really good day. The only thing we didn't do was any pen work. But she'd done it 2 other days this week. We still got the weekend, which I don't include in this. So I thought I would do a video now, other than showing you my board, I'm going to take you into my living room and I'm going to show you one of Rosie's books. And I'm doing this video for anyone who struggles with how to read effectively with your children and what to ask them to promote further learning. So this is a read with me part of a video. So I'm going to read Superworm. Okay, so Superworm is by Julia Donaldson and Axel Scheffler. So Superworm is super long, Superworm is super strong. Watch him wiggle, see him squirm, hip hip hooray for Superworm. I don't know why it's wibbling. So what I might do on this page is ask Rosie to identify the different creatures. So you've got a grasshopper, you've got a beetle. Count the beetles maybe because there's more than one. So he's a worm, dragonfly, a bee, a caterpillar, an ant. So I'd ask her to identify them, maybe what colour are the flowers, and then help, disaster, baby toad has hopped onto a major road. Quick, whatever can we do? It's Superworm, look, a Superworm lasso. So we might count the beetles again, but I'd tend to pop over to this page and ask her to count the bees instead. Name the number of the flowers. She tends to think this little guy down here is a bee, so she tends to count 9 when he's actually a beetle. I don't think he's a bee either, but it's up to you if you want to include him. The bees are feeling bored today. They need a nice new game to play. Cheer up, bees. No need to mope. It's Superworm the skipping rope. Beetle's fallen in the well. Is she drowning? Who can tell? Not to panic, all is fine. It's Superworm the fishing line. So I might ask her to count the beetles again there or something. Then toads and beetles, bees and bugs, brother snails and sister slugs, uncle ant and earwig aunt, clap and cheer and chant this chant. Superworm is super long, Superworm is super strong. Watch him wiggle, see him squirm, hip hip hooray for Superworm. So there's some new creatures on here. There's a snail, and there's a slug, and there's a spider. So I might still get her to identify some of the animals. The chant is carried on the air to Wizard Lizard in his lair. He mutters in his servant's ear, find that worm and bring him here. The servant crow is black and grim. Everyone is scared of him. They all let out a fearful shriek to see their hero in his beak. So there's his crow. The wizard waves his magic flower. Now, Superworm, you're in my power, and you must tunnel, writhe, and coil to find me treasure in the soil. Superworm is very cross to have a lizard as his boss, but when he tries to slink away, the wizard's magic makes him stay. If the lizard sounds funny, it's because normally he's Russian when I do it for Rosie Bear, but I'm trying not to do it. For days he tunnels, twists and winds, but all the treasure that he finds is 2 small buttons, half a cork, a toffee, and a plastic fork. The wizard flicks an angry tail. Have one last try, and if you fail to find that treasure down below, I'll feed you to my hungry crow. So I might ask her to identify some of the things under the ground here. So there's a ladybird, a fork, a button. The crow is flapping through the night. Everyone looks up in fright. They see him perch upon an oak and listen to his dreadful croak. Superworm is good to eat. Superworm's a special treat. He'll be juicy, fat and firm. Hip hip hooray for Superworm. So again, there's loads of counting opportunities in this book. Action quickly at the double. Superworm's in frightful trouble. We must help him if we can. We must hatch a cunning plan. The garden creatures leave their home carrying a honeycomb. And they jump and fly and crawl and creep and find the wizard fast asleep. They chew the petals off his flower to rob him of his magic power. The caterpillars fetch some leaves while busily the spider weaves. You can always ask them to count everything in this book. There's so many little bit stuff. The web is strong, the web is tough, the web is plenty big enough. The wizard wakes. This isn't funny, I'm wrapped in leaves and stuck with honey. The other thing I do is I leave the last word off the line, and if Rosie remembers the story, she'll fill it in. And she's slowly coming up to sentences that if I leave a sentence out, she'll fill in the sentence. Then up the bees and beetles fly and lift the web into the, and then she would fill in sky. This is the place, and crash bang thump, bang crash thump, the wizard's in the rubbish dump. And we think that's a Gruffalo when we read it. So you can always point out things. So there's a bird in this picture. You can ask her to find things in the dump. Can you find the car? Can you find the bird? Can you find the Gruffalo? And now from somewhere underground there comes a distant rumbling sound. The earth begins to heave, and then Superworm is back again. Superworm, the swing, the slide, the hula hoop, the fairground ride. Superworm, the belt, the hat, the crane, the train, the acrobat. So I might ask her to point to the picture that goes with the word there. Then toads and beetles, bees and bugs, brother snails and sister slugs, uncle ant and earwig aunt, clap and cheer and chant this chant. Superworm is super long, Superworm is super strong. Watch him wiggle, see him squirm, hip hip hooray for Superworm. And that's the end. The other thing that Rosie's enjoying doing at the moment is because she knows most of her capital letters. She's beginning to recognise some of her little ones as well. Is she sits here and she actually goes S for Santa, for umbrella, P for princess, E for elephant. So she'll spell out Superworm. She doesn't realise she's spelling Superworm, but she's recognising the letters as she does it. So she knows this is superworm, and she knows the letters that make it up. So that's the beginning of reading as well, being able to do that. It's always recommended phonics first. My mum's an ex-nursery teacher and she says phonics first. We're going that way just because that's what we've been recommended. I don't know if it works any other way. So I hope that's helped anyone not knowing where else to go with stories. Obviously it's nice to read just for fun and not interrupt the story. But if your child is anything like mine, they tend to like to read the same book over and over again, and it just makes it a little bit more interesting and challenging to read through it the second, third, fourth time with a little more, what colour is that flower? How many beetles are there? So I might add more to this video, or I might just send it as it is. So I hope everyone's had a good week. Next week we have relatives visiting, so I may only get one video done. We're still going to go TRV. We're going to go to the museum with our relatives, and then probably gymnastics on Thursday, and then Wednesday and Friday she's in nursery. So that's our plan for next week. And this week's gone pretty well. We went swimming, and she thoroughly enjoyed that. So yes, it's ta-ta from me and ta-ta from the Rosie Bear.